Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're talking about the top 5 Batman stories. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent, and today we're talking about Batman. We're doing my top 5 Batman stories. Now, these are in no particular order. I have not read every Batman comic book that's ever been written. Just these are my top 5. These are the ones that I go back to. These are the ones that I really preach about, recommend, and would hand out to people. Like if you go look at the guest reviews channel, chances are Jim's read most of these. At least most of them, or he should at the very least. All right, so we're going to start with some honorable mentions. I got 3 honorable mentions. This is currently working its way into the top 5. This is Batman White Knight, written and drawn by Sean Murphy with Matt Hollingsworth on colors. This is a alternate tale Batman, alternate universe where Batman defeats the Joker and then ultimately the Joker goes sane. There's a couple of Harley Quinns in here. I really like this universe. I really love what Sean Murphy's done in here, and I love his take on Batman. I love the art. Really, really cool Joker story in this book. Speaking of Joker, the last great Batman story I read, like the most recent one, was this one, Batman Joker War. This is by James Tynion IV, Jorge Jimenez, and Tomu More on colors. This is a phenomenal run, a criminally underrated run, which ended all too soon. I really could have read Tynion and Jorge Jimenez on Batman for another 10 years. Unfortunately, James Tynion IV decided to go to Substack and do some other comics elsewhere, so he left the Batman title, but that was not before he left us with this fantastic storyline of the Joker War. And Jorge Jimenez, what can you say about the man himself? He's just a phenomenal artist. I love following him on Instagram. He's so much fun. He's so young, vibrant, and youthful. Like, this is a man in his artistic prime, in the prime of his life, and he's going to be here for years and years and years to come, and I cannot wait to see how his style evolves. Really fantastic stuff in here. And I'm glad he's back on Batman with issue number 125 with, who's coming on? The guy who does Sex Criminals. Chip Zdarsky, who's a great writer and doing a fantastic job on Daredevil also right now. So can't wait to see how that shapes up. But this is a really cool run. Some really fun moments of the Joker just going into all-out war with Batman after obtaining his fortune and things like that. So really, really great stuff. Just look at these spreads here. Look, his cape says Batman. How cool is that? Really, I can get behind a lot of the moments in this book. Really, really fun stuff. Last honorable mention, this is Batman Vampire. This is an older trade, but this is basically Batman Red Rain, Batman Bloodstorm, Batman Crimson Mist. It's written by Doug Munch, drawn by Kelly Jones, and this is Batman as a vampire. As you see him here, I got Vampire Batman right here. Oh, the sticker fell down. It's okay. It's okay. Anyway, this is a really fun, Elseworld story that came out, 30 years or so ago. And really, really fun stuff. Batman becomes a vampire in the first book, which is they're all original graphic novels that were published as part of the Elseworlds line. And then he becomes a vampire fighting Dracula, and then the next couple books are him dealing with being a vampire and dealing with other supernatural forces, like Batman grows bat wings in one of these books. It's a lot of fun, and the artwork by Kelly Jones gives it this super gothic feel that you cannot get anywhere else, and that artwork style just adds to the drama and the tension of everything. And when you get to these things like Batman bearing his fangs and being super creepy here at the end, really, really fun stuff. I really, really enjoy it. Crimson Mist, I think, is the most where he's super vampire Batman, and that's what you see here. So this character, this version of Batman later on appeared in, I think, Countdown Arena and a couple other places when DC was exploring their multiverse. That's what this trade was from, that era, probably 10 years or so ago. It's currently collected, I believe, in one of the Batman Elseworlds trades. I think it's like a standalone. I want to say it's volume 2, maybe, of that trade paperback run. But it's all standalone. It's the same format as it is here, just these 3 stories in one trade paperback. So if you can find this or find Batman Elseworlds Volume 2, you'll read them all. They're fantastic. Highly recommend that stuff. All right, now to the top 5. So I'm not going to rank these. These are just the 5 that I love the most. So, you can count one higher than the other. These are just, I had to pick 5. I said these are the 5 that I'm going to pick, and this is them in no particular order. Basically, the order is whatever they're on top of on my shelf here. Batman No Man's Land in my top 5. Not just this volume, but the entire run over here to my right. Anywhere, I mean, you can start at Cataclysm. There's great stuff in there. We've reviewed it here on the channel. There's great stuff in Road to No Man's Land Volume 1, which is the aftershocks of Cataclysm. Just smaller stories of Batman saving people day to day. But really, the fun stuff happens in No Man's Land. I have volumes 1 through 4 of the newer printings. There's 5 older trades that don't actually collect everything. They skip some issues with Azrael and other things that kind of tie everything together. But these versions don't. And there's the omnibuses that are out now. There's a Road to No Man's Land omnibus. There's a No Man's Land omnibus. And I think there's a volume 2 coming out very, very soon this year. So you can seek those out, all in the oversized format. I just have the trade paperbacks, but this is fun because you have, it is one long story, but it's a bunch of smaller interconnected stories that form this larger fabric, this larger epic of No Man's Land in Gotham for almost an entire year. You have Huntress becoming Batgirl, and then Batgirl becoming Batgirl. It's no longer Huntress at some point, it's Cassandra Cain. So you have that whole arc in No Man's Land. That's a lot of fun. You have Leslie Tompkins, you have all the different factions, you have the Gotham City Police becoming their own gang and setting up a gang war to kill other gangs so that they can then take over the territory. Just a lot of ways that you can see Batman having to break his rules, so to speak. Not the rule of killing people, but the rule of only going out at night, or only helping this group. I mean, Batman has to help so many people in here. And so many different groups that he's basically stretching himself thin over the course of the entire year. And he's coming back from a place of he didn't want help. He didn't want the help of the group and things like that after Cataclysm. And then over the events of No Man's Land, he eventually just kind of not gives up, but just kind of says, all right, I do need help in here. And he calls in the Bat family, Robin, Nightwing, Batgirl, Azrael, and then gives them their own individual assignments. You have this territory, go do this mission, you do this, you do that. And then you read those missions throughout the trade paperbacks, throughout the story, and it's just a whole lot of fun. And there's phenomenal art in here also. Alex Maleev, Dale Eaglesham, Roger Robinson on the Azrael stuff. Really like his style, really dark. I'm just flipping through the first stuff here. Rick Burchett does some stories in here in this first volume. So, is that Sienkiewicz? I can't remember. Nope. Guy Davis doing some art in here. Some really early 2000s Batman stuff that's a whole lot of fun. So go seek out Batman No Man's Land. I would say you don't have to read Cataclysm or No Man's Land. Just know that there was an earthquake and they cut off Gotham from everywhere, and you can start fresh with the first volume or first omnibus, whatever's the most easiest to find. But if you want to start from the beginning, go find that Road to No Man's Land omnibus or the Cataclysm trade paperback and start there. But this entire storyline is great, but specifically in my top 5 is the No Man's Land arc in particular. All right, Batman Under the Red Hood. I really like this story. I really like Judd Winnick as a writer. I think he's criminally underrated. Didn't get his due at the time. I think Jeff Johns was writing at the same time as him and kind of overshadowed him, but his Batman stuff is a whole lot of fun. And not only that, it's drawn by Doug Mahnke throughout most of this run. You also got Eric Battle doing some stuff in here, some Shane Davis stuff. But the initial mystery, I remember reading this as it came out in single issues 20 years ago. And was it almost 20? I can't remember. Probably thereabouts, 2005, 2006. So we're getting close. And it was just this Red Hood guy's fun and shooting people up and taking out bad guys. And then the reveal of Jason Todd being the Red Hood, and that's not a big spoiler because everybody knows who Red Hood is now, but it was just a whole lot of fun. And then having the build up to this big finale, this big climax as Infinite Crisis is looming, to a showdown with the Joker in the last 2 issues, and just kind of leaving it hanging as to what was going to happen to these guys, was a phenomenal story. So this is one. It's also an animated movie, which is pretty fantastic as well. Red Hood's voiced by Jensen Ackles there. That's a whole lot of fun. You got covers by Matt Wagner for the first arc. Just Nightwing's in here. It's a Green Arrow. You got guest stars galore. And it's Judd Winnick doing his finest stuff. Really, this is probably what he'll be remembered for, even though his Green Arrow run is just as good as this. I mean, can you talk about Batman these days without talking about Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo and the Court of Owls? I think not. And there's a reason why. And this story is so phenomenal. These 11 issues here, Batman, the New 52, 1 through 11, just phenomenal stuff. You got the Court of Owls coming in here, the specter of Bruce Wayne going mad, the one issue where you have to turn it all the way around to read it as Bruce is going through the maze of the owls. That's great stuff. And then I think really what this was, most famous for was really Greg Capullo coming back to mainstream comics. He had left in the 90s and done some Spawn stuff, and really we hadn't seen him do a whole lot of things since then. But when he comes back and does Batman, and he's got this newly kind of less gritty but cartoony, clean style, but he's still got all the detail and the hatching and stuff that you remember from the Spawn days. Just this evolution of Greg Capullo was something to behold that was like, whoa, everybody sat up and took notice when he was doing Batman. And it was on time, it was monthly, fantastic stuff. There's really no better new Batman story than the Court of Owls adding a new mythos to Gotham. Unfortunately, have they done anything with the Court of Owls since? No, not really, but maybe because they did such a great job here in these 11 issues of setting them up and taking them down. But really great stuff from Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo here. I mean, the last 2, are they really surprised to anybody? You got the granddaddy of them all, The Dark Knight Returns. This is my original trade paperback. It is old, it is busted. This is the 10th anniversary edition, which means this is from 1996. I don't think I got this then, but it's been read to hell. I've read it every year since then. I don't know if I need to replace it or not, but this is just a phenomenal book. It's written, drawn by Frank Miller, inks by Klaus Janson, colors by Lynn Varley, I think his one-time wife. Just phenomenal stuff. Everything about Batman that you know and love is built off this book. Every writer read this book and built off of it. Every modern Batman story owes Frank Miller a debt of gratitude. Some people would say, year one's better or whatever, and those people are wrong, but that's fine. That's my opinion. It doesn't have to be yours. But there's so much more in Dark Knight Returns than in year one, just in terms of like the number of stories in here. These are all 4 distinct stories that kind of tie together in an arc. It's not just this, you see Batman straight away. One of the things I love, you're not waiting until the end to get to Batman. And year one is a more simplistic version of Batman. It's a more simple story, whereas this is convoluted. You've really got to read and pay attention to this, whereas I feel like year one is so simple you may not have to pay attention to really understand it. But you've got things in here, like the gangs, like the mutants. You've got all the way the future is, and you're trying to figure out what these guys are saying when they're talking to each other. You've got to figure out that Nixon's still president, or Reagan's still president, far in the future from the 80s. And you've got to deal with that. You've got all the talking heads going on with the different news channels, and you've kind of got some other history you've got to parse out. This is the first time, I believe, that they actually alluded to a dead person named Jason. Maybe he was a Robin, maybe he wasn't. I believe he was, but Jason Todd wasn't killed until after this book came out, and after this idea of like, oh, there's a dead Robin out there somewhere named Jason. Maybe we should have Jason Todd frickin' die. So you can thank Frank Miller for that storyline, I believe, because Jason Todd was still alive in the books and stuff when this came out, and I think it planted some images in people's minds, and took it and ran with it and wrote a great storyline, which led to Under the Red Hood. But yeah, this is great. The showdown with the Joker, the showdown with the mutant leader, and the showdown with Superman. That's 3 showdowns in one book, and they're all phenomenal to read. So great stuff in here. Rubber bullets, honest. One of the best lines ever said by Batman. And finally, last but not least, but not number 1 either, you have Batman: The Long Halloween, written by Jeff Loeb, drawn by Tim Sale. 13 issues of awesome Batman story. Just like Batman Dark Knight Returns, everybody who's writing Batman now is pulling something from this story. That's how much impact it's had, especially on modern Batman. You want to look at the Dark Knight movie, pulls a lot from this. There are scenes and shots, like literal lifts from the comic book in that film. The scene on the rooftop with Gordon, Dent, and Batman happened here first, translated in the Dark Knight. You know, and also the way that the current The Batman film is structured with Robert Pattinson, very similar to The Long Halloween. That one's paced a little bit slower. I mean, this is a comic book after all. This is, you know, there's action in at least every chapter, but it's really good and shall not be missed if you're a Batman fan. Definitely one to pick up. It's kind of like Batman Year 2 or Year 1.5. There's no Robin in here. It's still Batman. It's early days, although he's got his costume or whatever. And that's kind of what I like about Year 2 stories is if there's no Robin, at least have the freaking costume on. Man, I hate these stories where they're, oh, I'm going to make up the costume. But it's kind of the origin of Harvey Dent a little bit in here. And you deal with Harvey Dent transitioning into Two-Face, and how all that happens is all tied into the murder mystery and the mob and the Falcones here. You got Jim Gordon juggling being a cop, being Batman's friend, being Harvey's friend, being a husband, you know, kind of failing at all of those things, and just seeing how fallible and human all these characters are in this book is one of the things that makes it stand out as one of the top tier Batman tales. Just really fantastic stuff. There's an animated movie of this, but I don't really recommend it. I recommend you just read the trade. If you do like this, there's a sequel called Batman Dark Victory where they bring in Robin and kind of follow up on the Falcone family with another murder mystery, kind of sort of. But it doesn't hold, you know, it's not as great as this one. This is, you know, one of the greatest Batman stories ever told. Dark Victory, still pretty good, but it's not going to go in my top 5. So there you have it, my top 5 in no particular order. Long Halloween, Dark Knight Returns, Court of Owls, Under the Red Hood, and Batman No Man's Land. Thank you guys for watching. As always, let me know what you think down below of my top 5. What's in your top 5? Let me know down below in the comments. And we'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.